Okay. If I could call to order tonight's meeting, Tom Chapa,
Here.
Heather Del Conte.
Here.
Pamela Dowd. Lisa Glidden. James McKenzie.
Here.
Sean Ahmed.
Here.
Linda Serino. Zachary DeMott.
Here.
If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and also a moment of silence for a retired fourth grade teacher at Minetto who passed away March 9th. She was 94, Jane Abraham. I pledge allegiance to At this time, if I could make two amendments to the agenda tonight. The first one is the Board of Education revision of the 21-22 instructional calendar. The resolution states that June 21st and 23rd are half-days for K through 6, and it actually is June 22nd and 23rd. Then the next one is on finance. Item A, the amount on the resolution says $58,300. It should actually read $5,830. If I could have a motion to amend these? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is Board of Education revision of the 21-22 instructional calendar. If I could have a motion? Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just wondering why.
Within our teacher contract, there is a part that reads that the elementary teachers get 2 half-days in the last week of school.
So the revisions are there to make sure that the calendar reflected that change. Was there any other thing there too?
Just that the other part is just a change to the key in April reflecting the middle school and high school half-days for parent-teacher conferences.
Okay, so I guess I'm just wondering this because, you know, everybody thought classes were ending the 24th. Everybody was done and they're, right? But now we're saying the K through 6 have to go to school the next week for Monday, Tuesday?
No, it's if you go back and look at it, it's the day before, the 2 days
Okay.
before. So the
Okay, I
the
must
Wednesday and
have
the Thursday
misread it.
before the 26th.
I must have misread. I thought we were talking about extending it through Monday, Tuesday.
22nd, 23rd.
Half days. Okay.
Yes,
Never mind.
that was revised.
Oh, that's where
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Next would be the superintendent's report.
Did you vote on that? Got to vote on it.
Oh. Sorry.
Karen wants this over.
Opposed. At this time, if we could move to the superintendent's report.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Let's see. I wonder if we could just, Matt, can we just move that board a little bit so I can just see a little bit there? I'm not sure. Yeah, just a little bit there. All right, board, good evening. Great to see everybody back. We have a couple of things I wanted to just kind of go through tonight with everybody and just to share some information. So first offhand, I wanted to share that tonight we want to celebrate some of our students. This is Music in Our Schools Month, and we've had some really great things that have been occurring and that continue to occur. So at Minetto, our string students recently showcased their work, and they have continued to do really great things. Our community members can visit our website at oswego.org to catch the upcoming concerts and events that will feature many of our different ensembles. Also, I want to, while we're celebrating our Music in Schools Month, we want to celebrate the marching band here at the high school, the Marching Buccaneers. They received the Sammy Award. We congratulate our Marching Buccaneers. They won the People's Choice Allocade last Friday at the Sammy Awards show. This exhibition celebrates local musical triumphs throughout a vast collection of genres and award categories. So our students who've been working really hard in the marching band and all of our kids who are a part of our music program, we want to celebrate them. Maybe we can give them all a round of applause. Very proud of our kids. while we're celebrating, we also want to really congratulate our high school students. They were a part recently of a chain reaction event. This was facilitated by the Rachel's Challenge piece that is working in the high school right now. The goal is to empower students and adults to start a chain reaction that is focused on kindness and compassion. This work started really around the life, and it was built around the life and the writings of Rachel Scott, who was one of the first children killed in the Columbine High School shooting. And so there's a whole curriculum, there's a whole bunch of activities that are geared to really help kids to be kind to each other and to be compassionate, and our staff as well. So a lot of students participated recently, and we just want to thank them for their participation, and just a great part of the culture building pieces here in the district that we're working on at the high school. I'm not sure what happened there, but we're going to just keep going. I think you all have a copy of the PowerPoint just in case. We also want to congratulate one of our students, one of our seniors, Mary Kate Clunan, who has been selected as a National Merit Scholarship finalist. The National Merit Scholarship Program is an academic competition for recognition and for also scholarship that began in 1955. Approximately 1.5 million high school students enter the program each and every year across the entire country, and our Mary Kate is one of the students who has been selected. So also, I wonder if we can give her a round of applause. Congratulations, Mary Kate. Job well done. So, switching gears, just wanted to share some work that was done here at the high school and where we're at. As you all know, we were out of school for about a week here at the high school. We had, unfortunately, some work that just kind of came up that came out of no place. We had some challenges with our lines that go here into the high school. So as a part of the work that was done, we had to have some assessment work done up in advance to see what was going on. We noticed that we were having some issues with the boilers probably about Saturday or Sunday before that Monday. And Jim is here with us in case we have any questions, but we noticed that there was some, he didn't sleep a couple nights. Thank you, Jim, for all your help. But we had some real issues, with the boilers starting up and going like they needed to do. And so around Sunday-ish, we got a call that just said, hey, we have real issues. So we had to, unfortunately, hold kids from being able, and staff from returning to the building. So there was some pre-assessment work to try to diagnose what was the problem. What we knew was that there was some issues going on with the lines, the gas lines that go into the school. So as a part of the pre-assessment work, we had a camera walk where there was camera put down, the pipes to see if there was some frozen ice in there. The camera walk was really inconclusive, unfortunately. We do know there was a lot of dirt and mud in the pipes, but we were having a hard time being able to locate where there might be some challenges with the lines that were there. So we had to do some additional digging down and get a lot of the dirt out of the way and try to see those lines again, and did some additional assessment there. And even that work was still inconclusive. It was difficult to locate or pinpoint where we were having some of the challenges at. So the next plan was to basically abandon those lines, just stop using those lines. We had to cut off, the gas going into the school, abandon the lines, shut them down, and then basically bring in new lines, put in new lines. And the lines that we had, I think, were, 50 years old plus? So there was definitely some challenges with the lines. So we had some new lines put in, the PVC lines, if I remember correctly. And then one of the things that we also did while they were there was we added a T-line piece that was installed near the gas house. I hope I'm saying this correctly. Come on up to the mic so that way people who are watching can hear you too. Thank you.
Yeah, originally the gas house with one valve in it controlled the gas going to both Layton School and the high school. So since we had to dig up so much ground to begin with, it was a good time to isolate those pipes and add shut-off valves for both schools for any future, issues that come up. So
Exactly. So.
definitely a good idea.
So, one of the concerns that we were worried about and talking a lot about was, were we going to be able to do the work and still have Layton in school, or, would we have to shut down 2 of the different schools at the same time? We were able to isolate the work and make sure that we could keep at least the elementary open, which was good. But this will help us to prevent that in the future, basically. So now you got an opportunity to be able to not have to shut them both down, plus you have lines that are newer, basically. The grounds and the concrete, there was a backfill that needed to be done with asphalt. That was a part of the work. And just a lot of time, a lot of energy went into it. The costs, unfortunately, are more than what we kind of would like them to be. But it's the nature of the, emergency work. So, we're just about, give or, take or minus about 80,000 total for the work. J&A work, that was about 32K in costs. Oswego Mechanical, that's 1,800, and they did more of the scoping with the cameras, if I remember correctly.
Right. So Oswego Mechanical originally helped us with diagnosing, and then J&A did the bulk of the piping and the valve work and that type of stuff.
And then we had Malone, and their costs came in around 46.2. You want to talk about Malone's work?
Those guys really stepped up. I mean, I don't know what they had going on before this job came up, but it seemed to me like they pretty much dropped everything to spend as much time as they could here during the week. And then they waited for J&A to get a bunch of their work done, and then as soon as J&A was ready for them to start backfilling, they were right here to get everything closed back up. Additionally, though, J&A, once we did dig up the gas lines around the gas house itself, and they were able to cut into that line, they sent their camera in from the other end. And I saw the video from it, and when that camera is going down the pipe, you can actually see it drops and goes underwater inside the gas pipe for a short time. So that entire line was compromised, and we definitely did the right thing by abandoning that and just going with the all-new gas line to the high school.
So, I believe we've pretty much now gotten most of the itemized bills. There may be a couple of things still here and there, but that's what costs basically are. We do have some costs in the budget to cover this. Luckily, we had some extra in our medical insurance line and TRS line that would be used to cover the total cost of this. Are there any other questions from the board about it?
I just had a question. Jim, who will do the finished work in terms of the sidewalk on the other side? And
That I'm not sure of. I know that our upcoming projects, I'm not sure that any of that concrete or road work is part of those projects. So whether or not we have to do something, a different project that just covers that, or if we can piecemeal it with our own guys doing some, just replacing those missing flags of sidewalk and stuff like that.
okay.
First of all, Jim, thank you so much for your leadership on this. And so just two questions. One is, can we assume this was the problem then when the cafeteria was freezing earlier this year?
It could very well have been the reason we were having issues in both the science wing and the cafeteria and kitchen.
Okay.
Because those two rooftop units, that gas travels all the way to the roof and goes to those units, and we were having issues with keeping them running. Of course, we were trying to diagnose that and troubleshoot, and we kept looking at different components, thinking that could be the problem. But once those boilers started shutting down in the boiler room, that was when it's like, holy smoke, we're not getting enough gas pressure to our building to cover all that. So things were kind of sporadic. Without enough pressure, you could have some things running, and everything goes on and off as it's needed. So something might run here, and when that shuts off, then this thing over here starts working correctly, So it was kind of hard to figure that out. But once the boilers went down and we couldn't keep more than one boiler running for more than a couple minutes at a time, we definitely knew we had a pressure issue.
Okay. And at any point in time, was it a dangerous issue or just?
I don't believe so. It was
functional
all
issue?
about pressure. It wasn't, we didn't find any major leak. Even when we had probably half that gas line exposed, there was no gas smell out in the street or anything like that, so.
And Heather,
you.
we also had the fire department there to analyze it before we started any of the work, just to make sure.
Right, yeah, before we really went to town, Nancy had called them over, and they went around with meters and checked everything they possibly could. They even did a tour through the building to make sure that there was no gas in the building, too, so. Thank you.
I just have one other question, because it just threw me with the PVC. Is that the accepted mode now that
Yeah,
we're utilizing?
it's not exactly PVC. I can't remember what it is. It's a much newer gas line product that they weld couplings together. It's like melt them together. It's a pretty good product, and I'll never have to see that gas line again. I'm sure of it.
Well, thank you.
All right, board. So I just wanted to share that with you so you knew what happened and what took place and what was done. Okay? All right. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So before I go further, I just wanted to share with the board, because I don't want to keep this person time. I know she's been working all day, but I wanted her to just say hi to you. This is the candidate tonight for the Director of Literacy position. You want to just say hi to us, basically. So she's on the agenda for later tonight. And, I know you have a bunch going on, so if you do need to leave, please feel free to do so, okay? Nice to see you.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right, so in terms of follow-up, I wanted to also make sure I touch bases with the board on follow-up piece. So we had some questions about, some of our dual credit courses, what it might cost the board if the board wanted to, put the cost for these courses into the budget. So we did some research on it to try to figure out what's happening right now outside of our school district, what's happening across the state, and is this even possible? So currently in the state, there is a full-scale amount of work that's happening in every district that's centered on, it's called SIRS 108, College, Career, and Civic Readiness Accountability. So every year, districts now they're held accountable to see whether or not kids are truly ready to go out and participate in further learning and or for work. Excuse me, I can't even talk. So basically, you get so many points every year per student if they do certain things. So for example, if they participate in certain coursework, there's a score that they will get. So if, for instance, if a student graduates with a Regents diploma, they get a 1.0 score. If they get a GED, that's weighted at a 0.50, so half of a point, basically. If a student gets a Regents diploma and a CTE endorsement, it's weighted at 2.0. And the same goes for a student with a Regents diploma and a P-Tech endorsement. They get a 2.0 rather than a 1.0 rating. So basically what happens is every student gets a number of ratings depending on the courses that they have taken. And once everything is done, it's all tabulated up. And if they get so many points, then the state is saying they're ready for college or careers, right? And or to participate in civic, different activities. And each school district, it's an accountability measure that we are basically, every year, we get a report on it, a report card kind of grade basically as a district. So some districts, as this whole thing was rolled out a couple of years back, they kind of said, well, if we're going to get graded on this, then we're going to have to make sure that, if a kid's going to walk out with these different scores, we want to make sure that they all have the same opportunities, right? And so some districts have said, well, there are some challenges around this. For example, taking a dual college course, there's a cost to it. If you take a CTE or a P-Tech course, then there is no cost. So there was some concerns about, we have to level the playing field. We can't have a district getting dinged because certain kids were not able to pay for some of the college work, basically, the dual credit work. And so the state kind of said, okay, it's up to kind of each district as to how they handle this, basically. So different districts are doing different things. Again, we already have C-Tech and P-Tech that districts pay for, and those kids get dual college credit. But in the interest of equity and a fair playing field for accountability, many schools have gone further than just the CTE and the P-Tech, and they're actually paying for dual college credit courses, basically. So for example, we have one district who's probably 10, 15 miles from us right now. They certainly have a lower student amount than we do, but they do pay for the dual college credits for their students, basically. The other thing, too, is that many of the schools are trying to make sure that there's equity, that students who would like to take a college course are not prohibited, or stopped from taking the course because they're afraid of the dollar amount that's attached to the course, basically. So we did look at all of our courses to see what we're currently offering and what the pricing might look like. So you can see there's a plethora of courses that we offer. We have SUPA courses at the high school. Those courses start at $345 for 3 credit hours. Some of the courses have a semester 1 and a semester 2, like the first SUPA Econ course, 102, and then, 101 and then 102. So, the total course would cost you about $690, basically. And then it kind of goes on. So we have some courses that are offered by Oswego, and then some that are offered by CCC. And you can see what those courses are and how many students are in them. Now, just one caveat, just so that folks know, there are some of these courses that can be further reduced, right? So if students are qualified for free or reduced lunch, basically, then some of the cost on some of these courses can actually be reduced as well, right? But this is the general cost, basically, without any reductions, okay? Now, we have also another screen here. I've also put into here AP courses as well, those exams. Many school districts basically just pay for the AP exams. So it's a $96 cost, and the hope is that kids, again, can take the exam. Hopefully they'll be able to, if they go on to college, they'll be able to take some of those credits with them. Now, keeping in mind that at the college level, some colleges accept AP credit, some don't. Some want you to have a 4 or 5 on the exam, and some say, no, you don't need to have 4 or 5. So it depends on where the student is looking to go in terms of college. But there is a cost for those exams. And some districts just say, there are 2 of them that I know of right in our region who say, we'll just take care of the cost of the exam, okay? And just want to let you know as well, there are some potential courses for next year that we have been eyeing and working on. Ryan here at the high school, as a part of our strategic plan, we have been looking to increase bring in some additional dual credit courses. The goal is to really help those students who are, really wanting that college degree, right? To try to find a way to be able to get there. We have some students who will probably be first generation folks to go on to college. And we have some students who really want that college degree, but are struggling with, how do I get there? And the biggest thing is not that they don't have the ability, the skill set, but it's the cost, right? So what we're trying to do is create an opportunity where some of our students will be able to get anywhere as close to almost an associate's degree worth of credits before they even walk out of the door here. And the goal is that we level the playing field, offer opportunity, access, and equity for all students, okay? So right now, as a part of our strategic plan, these are a list of classes that Ryan has already gone through. He's worked with CCC and some of the other colleges to see, hey, would you be willing to offer dual credit, would you offer college credit if these kids take these courses next year? And the colleges have already said, hey, these are classes that we would be willing to support you all with in your district, basically. Okay, so you can see the list of classes, and I believe there's like 13 or 14 additional courses, okay? So if the board wishes to do it, certainly you can, I don't know why this is not working, you can certainly do this. However, the one thing you do need to know, and if I can go back, Matt, it does not like me tonight. I don't know why. But you have the packet in front of you. So the one thing you need to know is that, so if you do offer this, we want to kind of keep our eye on it, because it might open up floodgates, right? There may be people, children, who may say, hey, I wasn't going to take that course because of this, and now I really think I would like to. And so the opportunities may open. So the cost could be higher depending on what courses are given, how many children, you'll probably have more kids interested than what we currently have now. So we just wanted to share that with you, let you know that a little bit, just as a follow-up to see where you're at. And certainly you don't have to decide tonight, but I just wanted to let you know as a follow-up, this is the information that we've learned, and it is an opportunity, okay? Questions at all from the board about this at all?
I just want to say I'd love to have that problem.
It's a great
I
problem
would really
to have.
love to have that
It is.
problem, because I think the trend has been, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's hard to keep kids coming to those classes and staying in those classes. I think, I won't name which class, but I think there's at least one I know that started with a lot this year and currently has a few. So, and I don't know if it's because of the cost or if it's something else, but at least if we can remove one barrier. And also, as you suggested, the equity piece, because there are still limited, aren't there limited places for the P-TECH and, those programs, the new visions. So I'd love to have that problem.
Other board members' thoughts? Jim?
Yeah, just a couple. it seems to me as though there's a huge price difference in some of these places, SU versus Oswego versus Cayuga. Do we know if any, these up on the list here, are these primarily, hopefully? Good, thank you. I mean, because that's one of the ways you don't get yourself in trouble is if the class doesn't cost anything, right? I'm shocked that 32 people are doing some of these Syracuse super classes.
University.
You know, that 32 at 345, that's about 10 grand. I mean,
this
that's
is like
so much
11.
money.
$11,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, off the top of my head, yeah. So I'm glad to hear that that's, you know, what we're looking at there. I'd also say, as we were looking and planning, as somebody who brings in and has reviewed hundreds of freshman applications and coming in as a new student, I've never seen anybody with more than 54 credits earned. And that's one student in 18 years. Most students max out at somewhere around 30. So I'm just saying as a goal to try to think about some students being able to complete the associate, it's probably not going to get close to there in reality, just from my experience. I don't know, Lisa, you might have.
Yeah, no, would say the same. And actually, for someone on the other end of it, we have a lot of students who come in with like 18 to 20-something credits, so they're more than a semester ahead. And then they need to graduate early, and they don't want to. So just from, you know, a message to parents, it's really great to have, you know, to bring in some credits. And it's a bargain when you look at college credit tuition. But there's also something to be said for not pushing too much so that you can actually like enjoy your, senior year. But I have a lot of students who, you know, come in who are really like, they're just not, they want to be able to do an internship, but they've got everything done, and then they have to graduate. And then we have to, well, I won't say what we do to keep them there, but it's, you know.
Yeah, so, you know, at a minimum, you know, if we get like, kids getting, like you said, 54.
That
credit
would be
hours,
mostly you're going to come in the teens to 20s is the kind of usual average up.
And you know, that's a semester less
Yeah,
than
it is.
that child has to pay,
Yep.
that family has to try to, you know, get. The goal is to get those children, go after those children who really need the extra help to just see you can do it. You have a head start before you get out the door, right? English 101, English 102 are two of those courses that was listed up there, if I remember correctly. You see that English 12, CCC, English 101 and 102. A lot of kids go to college and have to retake the English over and over again before they can even get to the English 101 and 102. So it's under their belt before they walk out the door. Now, and the other thing, just as a caveat too, just to keep in mind, some of the colleges sometimes don't want to take courses, right? They don't want to take them from other colleges. But at least, you know, so we can't guarantee that every college is going to take the course. But, you know, we tried to find colleges that were local, around, near our area, right? And we have a lot of students who would take advantage of, I think, the colleges that are around these areas, if the opportunity presents themselves. So I just wanted to share that.
I think that underscores the point too, though. Like if you end up going to a college, it doesn't take the credit that you have paid for. That's awfully discouraging, especially if you had to stretch yourselves to pay for it. That's one thing. I think also, like, one advantage, you spoke to I think the biggest advantage, and that is just that message that I can do it. I used to teach a college-level course to childcare providers in our county, and it was the only college credit they had received, but yet it got the message in their mind that they could do this, and even as adults then go on to community college or whatever to get a degree. So I think it's just kind of getting that ball rolling. I also think that, you know, not looking for an associate, but if you can check off some of your core credits, then when you go and you matriculate, you can take some of the courses that maybe interest you a little bit more, or that you can have a little more range of choices. So I think there's a lot of benefits.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Last thing, you mentioned up at the beginning, there's an accountability index that all the schools get. Could you share that with us at some point?
I sure will.
I'm
We
intrigued.
actually
Not
have
right now,
a-
of course, but.
Yeah, we do have a memo that we will get to everybody. Actually, I do have a copy of the memo here with those indexes there. You can give this one to Jim, and I will send a copy out to everybody, so that all the board members can have a copy. You can see what that looks like. That's the piece from the state ed department. Okay, all right? Okay, everybody good?
Thank you for doing the research.
Yeah, and actually, I just want to share one story, and this is from like 5 years ago, but I was doing summer advising for an incoming student who was trying to place into calculus and who placed into and was really worried, and he came from Oswego High School, and he was just so concerned about college level, and I was like, look at your scores, look at what you've done. I was like, you are ready, and he was in one of our, like our engineering major, which is like you need to hit the ground running, and he was like, so happy at the end, you know, like it just like helped calm him. But I was like, I was so happy too, because I'm like, yeah, Oswego High School. Like we have kids who are calculus ready freshman year, which is a huge deal when you're going into like science or engineering. So yeah, it's great.
Okay, all right. Switching gears now, I want to just kind of talk a little bit about the organizational chart, just to kind of make sure that we go over that work. There was some questions about it, and we just want to make sure we, again, take a look at that. So, here's the chart as we began the year, and we've already added to the chart the Assistant Director for Business and Finance. He is on the agenda for this evening, and then the Director of ELA Literacy and also the Director of Math. So those two have already been discussed with the board and added as of today. And just wanted to share, we had a meeting couple meetings ago, and we were talking about the different positions that we need. I wanted to answer some questions and just try to make sure that I clarify some things, and also talk a little bit about cost. So, we have, a color code piece here. I think Jim had asked about, helping us to understand what were the different caveats here in the chart. So the yellow are new positions. The red are positions that are being revised or reorganized. And then the green is something that we're going to try to work through BOCES to help and assist us with. So under the Executive Director of Business Administration, the one piece that we are looking to add is the Assistant Director. And really that role is to help, just as a review for folks, it's there to help and support, that area which has a pretty large budget area, about $94 million. And there's a lot of work to be done in that zone between capital improvement projects, transportation, food and nutrition, and buildings and grounds, just security, a lot of different pieces that are there that we need some help and assistance with. So that we're looking to add that assistant director position this evening. Under personnel, what we'd like to do is to reorganize this area. So it's currently, executive director of personnel and secondary education. What we like to do is just revise that title, basically make that just a position that's focused on personnel. We certainly have a district function around personnel. We have over 700 employees, and then we have all the substitutes. There's just a lot happening with benefits and with personnel matters and day-to-day operations and labor relations. And the one piece that we were looking to add was a clerk typist. If you recall, we had talked about that before. And then the onboarding specialist recruitment person, that's another position that we would like to see. It would actually be another form of a clerk position, if I remember correctly. We looked at the job titles, and account clerk typist goes actually closest to that. And this is a person who would actually help us with the onboarding of staff. So right now, the director is working, trying to onboard all the new people that come in. And if you could just imagine one day with trying to work through labor relations issues, matters that come up around personnel, benefits, you name it, just a lot of stuff that's going on in that area. And then there's this whole orientation kind of piece. So one of the things that we know is that holding on to people, how they enter the environment, right, makes a big difference as to how long you actually can hold their attention and keep them. We want to keep good employees, but we also want to start them out on the right foot, right? And so we really want to try to up the ante around orientation, around supporting people from the day they start in our organization until the time that they leave with us, basically. So we are looking to try to get a clerk into that position to help. The next caveat, function of the district is the executive director for curriculum and instruction. So unfortunately, we have a person who's going to leave us. We've been trying everything to get the person to stay, but at any rate, people are, okay, they can refire instead of retire. That's great. But anyway, she's like, no. But anyway, so what we want to do is reorganize. So we've had a elementary Executive Director of Elementary Education and Accountability. And what we want to do is kind of reorganize that area. As now we're looking at a retirement here. What we want is really that person to focus on the function around curriculum and instruction. So this person is going to, what we'd like to do is really have them focused on ELA, math, science, social studies, making sure that people are looking at data, all of the, the different instructional pieces, foreign language, you name it, whatever. We want this person to really focus on those areas. Curriculum and instruction is the life that that person will live and breathe basically as they're here working with and for us. And then the last function that we would like to add here is really, we want to separate out the Executive Director of Special Education and Student Services. So that is a whole realm to itself, basically. Working with and making sure that we're supporting the hundreds of students that we have around disability and also around, 504 planning, accommodations, all of those things we would like, and student services, OT, PT, speech, special education classrooms, the CSC process, the CPSC process, the 504 planning process. It's a whole function. Currently, it functions under the elementary executive director and accountability person, but really it's its own separate entity. And what we would like to do around that position, just go back a little bit. We'd like to make that a confidential cabinet level position, basically, for around 5,000 more, basically. So we want to really have that person in the room when we're having cabinet level discussions. We really feel like that special ed piece needs to be in the room, having those discussions. And this particular position would be, recategorized. So currently it is a director that runs the position. And there is a director, an assistant director that's underneath that position, basically, or another director rather that's under there. As you look at the chart, it talks about director of student services. So having a director manage another director that would present some PERB issues with us, right? And we really need someone to be the supervisor over all of that function. Currently, that person works under Carrie and is supervised by Carrie, but we really need a person who's in charge of that area, supervising all of those processes separate from, but yeah, working in collaboration with all of the other departments in the district, okay? Let me just go back a little bit here. All right. So we currently have a director in that area for student services. We would look to keep that student services person until that person is done with our district, and then we would reorganize that position, basically, all right, to make that the assistant director for that particular department. And that person will handle things like counseling, nursing, OT, PT, and not some of those other things that that person is currently doing. There's a plethora of things that the person is doing now with DASA, hearings, code of conduct, aside from the services that need to be done. So some of those duties, what we'd like to do is move those duties to the assistant superintendent of schools position if we were able to get that position. That person would be assisting me, working with me around K-12 principals, making sure that we have the registration process taken care of, security in our schools, DASA process, hearings that need to be done, code of conduct, and they would also be working on any special projects that we might have, in addition to supporting the instructional technology piece that's happening around the district as well. So that's what we're looking to do, right? We want to try to get an assistant superintendent to really help and assist me with the work that we're doing around K through 12 schools and all those other processes. But then most of these other things are just recategorized things, reorganized areas, basically. So we're changing some of the titles, changing some of the players that are there. And the goal is to really support the functions of the district. And there are 4 major functions. There is a business function, there is a personnel function, there is a curriculum and instruction function, and there is a student services and special education function. And so we're trying to really support them in a much more sound way, as opposed to just a few people having so many things that it's overwhelming, okay? All right. So in terms of cost, so let me just make sure I give the caveat around cost. So if some of these positions were hired this year, there are some lines that we can use right now, right? So moving forward, every year there are contractual obligations where there's an increase, right? Because each salary basically gets an increase, each salary position. So the Assistant Director of Business, we certainly have some funds right now. There's some federal ARP grant pieces. And Nancy, feel free to drop in whenever you need to here, that we know that we could transfer for this year to get the funds to cover that position. The typist position is something that we know we can pull from our TRS line right now. It's based upon the teacher retirement line. Based on what we're seeing with the trend right now, we can reduce that line. And that is around, the projected salary is around 33.2. The other one is 75 to 80. The onboarding specialist account clerk typist right now is at, we're projecting at around 37.6. And then, by the way, the benefits here is, we're not sure. Some people will take our benefits, some people won't. So we just wanted to put it in there just as a worst case scenario, basically in terms of cost. And that would be, we do have money in our TRS line right now that we can utilize to help support that. The Director of Literacy position, that's, around 93K plus. We do, because people come with experience, we certainly want to get the very best. And again, you can see the benefits there, total around 125.5 with the benefits, depending on if the person accepts the health insurance. And then we have costs that are covered out of our Title 2A cost for reading. We can use those costs, or use that grant, particular grant, to cover the cost. Under math, again, you can see the cost there at 93K, total cost around 125 with benefits. So if the position is taken or put into place this year, we do have some money in the TRS line, but we also have some money in terms of grants. About 60% of the salary can be used from the grant, and we also have some breakage that we know is coming. We have a particular coach at one of our schools that is going to be leaving us, and so we do definitely know that we have some breakage that we can utilize if we need to from there. Did that move? All right. For TOSAs, we think that we're going to need 3 to help us out, and they're in the chart there. We have money already every year in the budget under the substitute line, and we would be using money from that subline to cover the need for substitutes for the teachers who would be on special assignment to help us with curriculum and instruction. The Director of Special Ed positions, so that's about a $5K cost there. We have some breakage that we would take monies from. So if the position could get started this year, we certainly have some cost in TRS that we can take from this year. Okay. The Assistant Superintendent position, it's about a 125 to 140 commensurate with the experience cost. The benefits about 45 or less. Again, it depends upon whether the person accepts health insurance. Between 170 to 175 cost. Now, with this position, we actually we could hold off to the end of this year and do this for next year. So if we do it with next year, we believe that we will actually have some health insurance money for next year that we could actually utilize to cover. There's about $200,000 there that we think we can reduce from that line for the next year and use to cover this piece here as opposed to TRS. Okay. Under the Assistant Director of Special Education and Student Services, there is no change at this point in time because it's a person who's currently already in that position, basically. And so you see the grand totals. And just to note, all positions are paid by utilizing current budget lines for this current school year. As we move forward in the next year, I kind of outlined for you where monies would come from. And just keep in mind, if we need to reduce from other lines, we have the ability to do so for the next school year if we need to. I think we should be, Nancy and I went over this a lot today to make sure we could do this. We believe very strongly that we could. And on top of that, again, we just want to remind folks that every year moving forward, because of contracts, people do make a percentage more, basically. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? So that's kind of where we're at. We had some questions about what does it mean that a position is coming from the TRS line. This means the teacher retirement system projections can be reduced based upon trend, and the budget can be used to fund the position. When talking about money coming from grants, what other positions or services could be offered with those same grant funds? So it's really up to basically the district and the needs of the district. It's up to operational need, basically. So you could use monies to cover, cover administrative costs, teaching positions. You could do related services. There are, outside services. It depends upon what the district needs. So there's a variety of things you could use grant money on. Given all the moving pieces, what's the financial increase to the budget concerning both salaries and benefits? So there's no increase if we basically use from this year. If we hire many of these this year, we have monies already included. But again, moving forward, there are increases that will happen basically each year. And then why the change for the executive director of special ed? Again, I think I explained that for the most part. And just again, keep in mind that department will have quality assurance. So they'll be working with state ed department, special education, 504 plans, preventative services, and related services, which are a lot of folks that would be under that department. Professional development, New York State reporting for special ed, 504 services, preschool services, grant writing. There are grants 611 and the IDA 611 and 619. The Committee on Special Education and Committee on Preschool Education, which have annual reviews. They have 3-year triannual reviews as well that need to be done for kids. Preschool services and related services. And, we didn't even talk about early intervention. That's there as well. And testing. So that's why the volume of work, we feel would definitely need to have a confidential management level employee at that area, basically. All right, board. Questions?
I have a question about the teachers on special assignment. In those subject areas, are they going to be coordinating K through 12?
They will
Is
be,
that-
yes,
okay.
yes. So they will be K through 12, and they will be working with the the executive director of curriculum and instruction on making sure that we, coordinate and support K through 12. Yes. Okay.
So can I follow up on the TOSAs? Here it says that 3 are needed, and it says $60,000 regular substitute costs. Is that $60,000 per regular substitute, or is that $60,000 for all 3 regular
No,
substitutes?
it's per regular substitute, per person.
So
And
it's not, so the total cost here isn't 81K, the total cost here is 200,
There you go, 243.
well, 60 by, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you for that question. Just to be clear, that's per person. Now, again, with the benefits, it depends on if they take it or not. But that's for a long-term sub, basically.
Right.
So as we do each year when we have a long-term sub, I think from the contract, if I remember correctly, you started at an OCTA teacher first year. Right.
We're hiring a newer, less experienced teacher than those we would select to be our TOSAs. So the TOSA cost is already budgeted in previously, and then the cost we would pick up is to replace the folks. And again, the assumption is we're likely hiring a less experienced person to fill that spot, as we do whenever there's a move or a retirement.
We currently have some teachers now in our district who are teachers on special assignment. For example, I believe we have one in the technology department, if I remember correctly. And there's someone who backfills that position, a sub who takes over that role, a long-term sub for the year. The benefit of that is we get to see how the TOSAs work. Does that really support us like we need to before we kind of do anything further, permanent? Also, our kids still get someone who's certified, hopefully in that area. That's what we work towards, getting a certified person who takes a full year to get some support or get some teaching experience as well. So we do that now, and we do have monies in that subline that we believe, just looking at some of our trends, it looks like we would be able to support that out of the substitute area, right, for the year.
Okay, so we're going up on that total, we're going up to 240, which is going to bring us above 900,000 total. On these TOSAs, you mentioned, seeing how they go. What's the duration of their contract typically?
Go ahead.
They can take a leave of absence from their regular teaching position for up to 2 years.
Okay.
So it would probably be a 2-year evaluation period to see whether or not the TOSA structure was meeting the district's needs. And then we would have another discussion at that point.
So I guess this may be a loaded question, but I got to ask. So if we're going to have somebody out for 2 years on special assignment, we do a long-term sub instead of actually hiring somebody in because the long-term sub isn't part of the tenure system, I'd imagine? Is that why we're doing it?
Well,
or-
we would hire, it's just contract language, but they're called a regular sub, which means they're hired in at the first year. They do get a notice from us each June that says, kind of like, thank you for your services. Your service contract period ends that June 30th. But they can accrue tenure time as long as there's no break in service. So let's presume that a TOSA comes in, does a fantastic job, serves our purpose, and then potentially moves into more of a permanent type of a role. The person who backfilled, again, if we liked their performance, and they stayed with us at the end of those 2 years, those 2 years count towards their tenure period if they move into then a probationary period.
And I do believe that when we added this, and we could double check it, but I believe we did add in the 3 at the total 81, which gave you the 243. So it's not an additional 243, if I remember correctly. I believe we added that in. Okay, just to clarify that. And Heather just did some of the math herself, so, right, okay,
Yeah, okay, and that's already built in our sub-budget.
yep.
Okay. Because I see from our report today that we've already spent 376 of the 300,000, or $600,000 of substitutes, so we still have a bunch of money left in there, and that's a typical year. Yeah, okay, so I was looking at seeing if we could find $81,000 in there, and it's really 240. Okay, so then, my question goes to this idea of TRS lines. We'd be using them right now because if we did a hire right now, you'd say we have the money in the TRS line.
We do.
For the next budget that we're acting on, we'll put to the voters in May, will that money be shifted from the TRS line to the appropriate teaching lines?
So not all of those, right? Some of those folks will be, there are some shifting that will happen. For example, we talked about the health insurance. So we currently have an amount that we have each year for health insurance. Next year, that will cover, we can reduce that line to cover the assistant superintendent for a position if that was put into place. Like, so if you remember correctly, I just talked about health insurance. Now, there are some other lines that we believe that we can reduce, so that we can actually make sure that all of this comes together. But there is going to be, if we did it this year, if you allowed us to hire the people now, we have more than enough in the TRS line to be able to cover it, basically. So there are some positions, some of these positions you won't even need from another line. For example, the Assistant Director for Special Education, it's a current position. The Executive Director for Special Education, it's $5,000, right? So we have some money, we have $5,000 in other accounts that we can reduce to be able to cover that.
So I guess, just from a personal standpoint, trying to think about numbers in future budgets, it doesn't make sense to me from what I understand right now, if, for next year, talking next year's budget, to have these funds sitting in TRS as opposed to a line item that they're actually associated with, a teacher or an administrator. It seems to me we'd be looking at a TRS line that we know is not being entirely TRS, that part of that TRS money would be going towards instruction.
So I think I said before, we would have to reduce some of our other lines, right, so that we can cover next year. So many of these things can't come out of TRS next year. Why? Because this year we have the extra money right now, right? So we have some TRS pieces now that we can pull money from. So next year, there are other lines that we would have to reduce in order to cover the cost here.
Well, I think when you look at a budget, right, so there's a certain amount that we have budgeted for TRS, and we're saying, Nancy's saying, we don't need all of that, so we can shift some of those, we can, for accounting purposes, that money, like, let's say half of it, okay, it's probably not, but anyways, goes to these positions. Next year, the numbers don't change, just where that money is allocated changes lines. I think that's what Jim is talking about. So next year, you're not going to say it's coming out of TRS. You're saying it's already budgeted for that particular position. What you're saying is, because of salary increases, we are going to have to find money elsewhere for salary increases. But for their basic, this amount, it'll be a line item.
Thank you. You described it perfectly.
Because and just for your initial question, if I remember correctly, we fund TRS depending on what that actuary tells us, right? Like, when he gives the report, doesn't he say what we should be funding it for?
That's not for
That's a different thing?
TRS.
Okay.
That's for our post-employment benefits.
Oh, okay.
So the TRS is based on the teachers' salaries and the TRS contribution rate.
So I guess where part of my confusion's coming from is back last month, we had a conversation on the proposed budget for next year. And under TRS, there was a $390,000 increase from this year. So to me, that was saying that we're actually having to spend more than normal for TRS next year.
So it's not more than normal, Jim. So when you have the teacher salaries, the TRS is based on their wages. They all get an increase for next year. And then that has to be factored in with an increased TRS rate as well.
And-
So it would normally be increased by those two values.
So also keep in mind, during the actual school year that we have, you might see a fluctuation in your TRS depending upon who stays, who goes, when they go, some of your TRS dollars that you projected. So again, when we do the budget, it's your best guesstimate at that particular time. But during the year, like this year, in the middle of COVID-19, some people said, oh, this is just too busy this year. I love it, thank you, but I'm eligible to retire. I'm gonna retire, right? And then some people said, no, I'm gonna hang in there, right? So that number may fluctuate how much you actually have to use, how much you have to end up paying out. And so we've got extra right now in there. So if we hire it now, that's where we would take it from. Just to let you know, that fluctuates each year.
Oh, I know, but
right?
honestly, that compounded my confusion, because I looked at our consent report for today. The financial consent report says that we haven't spent anything on the TRS yet to date this fiscal year. We've deducted $55,000 from a line item budget transfer. So we've gone from 600 down to 540 something. But we haven't spent a cent, or at least on the book. So I'm wondering how we gauge that.
The year's not over yet,
No, I
so
know.
there are times when we will have to, once we start getting the bills and things, then we would pay
Sure.
those.
Well, and I guess it's what
We
you
can,
said.
we can kind of project a little bit or guesstimate based on what we see, who's coming in and who's going out right now.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just like to make sure that when we look at budget line items, we know what we're paying for as opposed to knowing we're going to pay for something off item past this year. I get this year, because the line items are already set.
Understand.
But past this year, it helps everybody who may not be in this table 5 or 10 years from now, right? Looking at budgets and going, what, the monies should be where it's being spent to.
Point well taken. Thank you. Okay. Other questions, Tom?
I had a question regarding the grant portion component of this. What's the duration of our grants, and what portion are they covering of it? And we can't count on those, or can we? How do we utilize that?
So I'll let you talk, but just generally, title grants, we have title grants pretty much every year. I don't know of a district that doesn't get Title I or Title IIA grants. They come every year. And I know they go from, I think, isn't it July 1st? I'm not sure the dates when they start to end. Go ahead.
They start September 1 and they go through, September 1. And we have to apply for them every year, but it is guaranteed that you're going to get the title grants, the federal grants. It's based on the need of your school district, your free and reduced lunch, and so that all factors into how much we get every year. So it's a definite.
Pretty consistent revenue stream that we're going to have.
Yeah, I've never seen those Title I or Title II grants ever not. I've never seen districts not get them. In addition to IDA funds as well, 611, 619 for kids with disabilities. But it's all dependent upon, like she said, your free and reduced lunch rates. It depends upon how many students that you have needs with respect to special education needs as well, preschool and regular special education committee needs.
Carrie, would you say over time we're trending to more of a larger grants, or are we holding constant? Do you know?
We have, we go up a little, and then in other parts, like, there's several title grants. So some go up and some go down. So it's never a major down, ever. It's always edging up a little, and then like Title V went down probably $500, something
But the
minor.
whole picture in terms of that is increasing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as a follow-up to Tom here, do we typically spend all of our Title II, Title A, or Title IIA? Yeah. Do we typically spend all that?
Absolutely, I spent.
Okay. So if we typically spend it all, and we're going to now use $140,000 for the Director of Literacy with pay
Just to,
and benefits.
if I could just, can I just interrupt for a minute?
Sure.
So many of our grants we do spend, however, you can carry over, and we do carry over money from year to year on grants, if I remember correctly. So just be clear, you said we don't always spend every last penny of it. That's not necessarily true. Correct. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I'm wondering then, what are we not going to do if we're going to do this? So this is about 140K.
I had already written in for this year's title grant, the Director of Literacy, that's already was written in and approved.
And so we'd be actually getting more money just to fund this position?
It's gonna roll over because we didn't spend the whole entire
Okay.
piece of it.
If it's extra money, that's good. Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to take from one hand to feed the other. So if it's extra, then you're not taking. Beautiful, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, can I
So-
ask one more?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. I haven't heard anything about our efficiency study.
Sure.
And when I look at this, I'm looking at, for the new things, and thank you for color coding, tell us what the key is. I'm looking at 9 new administrative positions and 2 administrative assistants and the typist and the recruitment
Well,
specialist. So that's 9 positions.
I wouldn't say all of these are new, because they're already, the executive director is just a different title.
No, that wasn't one of them. It was
Okay.
the yellow ones. There are 9 yellow
Okay.
ones.
So yes, there are some that are newer. Now, in terms of the studies, I have spoken to a number of the folks. In fact, I talked to Dr. Timms. Just last week, I saw him in Albany. His report, he's looking to have it done about the next 2 to 3 weeks. The study for transportation. All of our folks here's what I'm hearing from a number of them. We're a little bit of a different district. We have different layers of some complication that they have to kind of dig through and dig a little bit deeper to get the right answers. So everyone has told me within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we should have your studies pretty much set, and then our goal is to just start to schedule them with the board. Come in, share your outcomes, share your information, and I think you'll hear good things from them. So they're forthcoming. People are working on them right now diligently. And I'm asking, how soon? How soon? Sure. So I think everybody will get by April 1st or earlier.
So I guess my request, if we're going to do it in phases, if there is a phase that encompasses administrative realm, that umbrella that we're talking about, these administrators and administrative assistants would be working under. If there is a part of that, I would ask that I think it would become good coming first. Because again, nine positions is an awful lot of positions. And if this efficiency study tells us that we need 9 positions or something along those lines, I can understand an external evaluator saying that. It seems like a big ask.
Respectfully, Jim, truly respectfully, I think asking for all 9 of these positions to wait until everything comes out, I think we need to be careful, because there is institutional memory that's getting ready to leave us right now. We really need to have an executive director for human resources really soon. That institutional memory and knowledge is leaving. It is a retitling difference. I don't know why we need to wait for that. The executive director for personnel, we need. This other position with curriculum and instruction, respectfully, we need that right away. May I finish respectfully? There are a number of items that need to be handled. ELA, that's already on the agenda. The math one is already on the agenda. But we need somebody to help there's 49 different things under that person that we need to get moving on. So waiting till April till those come out, it's going to be multiple months. Every month that we have less than 90 days to get people to filled with some of these positions. The director of special education, that's a person that's already there, right? So the TOSAs ones, we can certainly wait on the TOSAs. I don't have any problem with that. But it's those executive positions. The assistant superintendent position, I can wait till next year. But some of these positions, I just think we need. The onboarding specialist, we can hold off on as well if the board wishes to do that. But if there can be a compromise, because some of these things, we need them. And I don't see those positions going away. The functions will still remain the same for the district. And we need to really post those positions now. We just, waiting is almost, it's an option, but not.
Just to clarify, I'm not talking about those positions. Those positions are in white. Those positions are not in yellow. Those positions exist and you're reassigning things. So when somebody leaves and you find I need a director of personnel, that's in white here. To me, that's already going. That's already ready. Okay. Right? And of the 9 that are coded yellow, we've already approved 3 of them. the Assistant Director of Business, and the Director of Math, and the Director of ELA. So 3 of the 9 are already been approved by the board, and you've already moved forward and hired 2 of them, right? So I'm not talking about those red ones. Those are in white. Those are positions you already have and you can redo however you want. I was strictly speaking to 9 additional ones that were coded yellow here, and thinking about this external report that's coming.
Okay?
I think it is important that we understand from you anyways what you're thinking of in terms of timing, because, so there's a number of things that the board does oversee. Obviously, we have to approve an organizational chart. That's what we're looking at. But this is a significant change to our organizational chart, and it's a holistic concept. So the other thing that, obviously we're in budget season. So I actually thought that these were going to be embedded in the budget, and that's where we were going to, yay or nay it. But if you're looking for approval before then for the yellow positions that Jim's talking about, we just need an idea of your timeline and what you're thinking in terms of priority, so that so that we can be really deliberate about the process.
Sure. So the red positions, I think you kind of know where I'm at for the red positions. Am I correct? Everybody clear on that? Okay. So now, in terms of the Assistant Director for Business, that's already been resolved. The clerk typist one already been resolved. So the onboarding specialist, I would say really by the end of the year, we need to have someone in place, because it's the summertime that we do all the hiring. So that person would be needing to be up to speed, so that by July, August, we could have them in place. Okay, so we have some time for that one. The Director of ELA and Math already set. The TOSAs, I think again by the end of the school year, we would just need to know. So we need to post for those before people go. Leave us over the summertime so that we can kind of get whoever's going to be in place, basically. The TOSA for all the TOSAs. So I would say before the end of the school year, we would need to have that, whoever's going to be in those places. The Assistant Superintendent of Schools, that one, I would say if you want to wait till after the studies are done, then we can kind of go with that one, right? That would be the last one that I would get. If the board's, I would make that the last one to go. I can hang in there until, basically, okay? So that assistant superintendency, I would say end of May, June, somehow around that time, I'd like to start posting for that, because we lose that's the other thing. The good candidates are now applying. I don't want to say good candidates, but many of the people are applying for positions as they're opening right now. So trying to get the best talent that's out there, the sooner we can get it, the better. That's what I'm after. So. But everything else, if we can go ahead, I need to definitely get the executive directors going, like tomorrow, if the board is okay with that. That's my thought. I hope I answered your question there, Heather.
Yeah, it sounds to me then like the positions in question are ones that we can address vis-a-vis the budget. Because you're saying you want them in place by the end of the year.
Yes.
You approve the budget, end of April, May, so. Did you have something?
No, I was just going to say, we'll see the efficiency studies even before the budget is, before we even vote on the budget, so.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we're good. Like, are we going to have to vote on, did you want us to vote on the proposed change to the structure in total now? Or, because it seems like we're just doing it piece by piece. Right. We're kind of putting it together piece by piece.
So this is the structure that I'm proposing in terms of reorganizational chart. If the board would be willing to accept that this evening, great. If the board wants to wait on that till the study is done, that's fine. But if you want to just, you've pretty much kind of said to me, hey, we can go ahead with the red stuff, like getting that hired. If we're okay with that, if I can get approval for that tonight, I'd like to move forward at least hiring those positions, basically.
Yeah.
They're all current positions, right? It's just a matter of you retitling them and
Rehiring.
and putting different, responsibilities on them. That's zero net cost.
Well, if that's the case, are there any other ones that we want to move forward with that we could do now that are in yellow? Would we want to do that now, or do you still want to wait?
I would prefer to wait to see them because, just when I look at this and I look at the TRS, I'm still not making complete sense of it, but it looks like we're basing it on a projection. And then we've got some other things with federal grants, which is more hard money than I'm usually used to with federal grants. Federal grants are usually soft money that can go at an instant. That isn't the same with 2A, so I get that. But the bulk here, whatever it is, almost $400,000 being paid through the TRS. Looking at the past TRS budgets, it's not making sense to me, so.
Well, but just to be clear, some of these yellow, we've already approved these hires that are in
Some of
yellow.
them, right.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I think you're just saying you don't want to go any further than the ones we've already recruited for and searched for and effectively hired. We just have to approve tonight, right?
Yeah, I think we've had a disconnect with process because we are, again, making such major changes, and it is wholly comprehensive, that we've had a little bit of a glitch in terms of the board understanding our role in the process. And again, we can say yay or nay to an organizational chart, but I don't really think that's very effective right now. I think it's really about budget. I think that's where our concerns lie, is paying, at least that's what I'm hearing from Jim anyway. I think as a concept, this looks amazing. It looks like everything's in the right place and we have enough people to do what, needs to be done. But so it's about really the budget and making sure that the budget works. I really appreciate the work that's been put in, finding the money and kind of keeping it as conservative as possible. So Jim, and I haven't heard from other people, but Linda,
I appreciated the outlining of where the money was, because I had said something at a prior meeting that I was concerned about the money. But now that he has specified where he can draw the money from to get this rolling, I say go for it.
So if we're approaching this as a budget concept and conversation in terms of the new positions, now is really the time to speak up because this is budget season. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, so I think this organizational chart looks like it would address many of the challenges that we have. And if we can find the, rebudget and reallocate and make sure we're applying grants in the correct way, I am completely supportive of moving forward. And with the recognition as well that some of these positions will have to be hired under this year's budget. Because we need to have, especially the recruitment, obviously, we have a lot of recruiting to do, in addition to the regular summer recruitment that we have to do.
And I guess speaking to the efficiency studies, Mathis, how confident are you that this will be reflected in?
I'm very
Because I think that is Jim's, I don't want to speak for you, Jim, but you don't want to let's do this and then find out after we've paid for an efficiency study that they're saying this isn't what we need.
I'm very confident. I don't feel the efficiency study is going to go against this. Actually, I think the efficiency study is going to tell us we may want to consider some additional things that we may be missing to help us operate more efficiently as a district. There's some areas that we're overpaying for, even with some of the existing staff, because they're having to do so much more, and the cost is there. So I feel very confident that the study is actually going to tell us, this is a great chart, right? You're fine, and that maybe you may want to consider some other things in the future as well. Right? That's my thought.
And speaking of that, I just want to bring up one other point. Throughout this whole conversation, we have really justified a lot of this based on cuts that were made in the 15-16 school budget. And so I have, had people talk to me about, you realize it wasn't just administrative positions cut, it was teachers, it was custodial staff, it was, a lot of people actually were cut in that year. So I did talk to Dr. Calvin about that. So I think we're going to do a presentation on that so that we can also compare where we were then to where we're headed now and to see, what of those positions have been restored and just kind of as a comparative so that we, make sure that we're not just emphasizing administrators, but also, the other folks as well, the other positions as well.
Okay. So my question is, do you want to just, do you want to take a vote to see who's okay with this as it is now, or do you want to, or just hire the red? I'm just wondering how you want to move forward, because we have a couple that are interested in moving forward as the
Okay, why don't we just go around and just, qualitatively say how, Lisa just said how she felt, how you feel about the organizational chart as well as moving forward with all of the items, now. Jim?
As I said, bringing in 9 new positions into the administration, 7 administrators and 2 administrative assistants for almost $900,000, I would feel more comfortable seeing an efficiency report. I'm not sure, that would be my comfort level. This is a lot of money that we're going to be added on, and it takes a catastrophe like the 15-16 year for anybody to really go through and look hard at things, right? So I'm wondering if we see some of this money and we can free up from TRS, can we reduce class sizes? More teachers, or at least teachers' aides. Like, I'd love to see a teacher's aide at every grade level, K through 6. One teacher aide dedicated at every grade. I'd love to get there because our student numbers are really high. I was talking to people the other day about, writing proficiencies and math proficiencies, and anybody who's worked at those younger levels knows how hard it is if you've got 23 kids in a classroom and there's only 2 disruptive ones, and how hard it is to get through the math lesson or the ELA lesson. So personally, if we have extra funds that we found through an efficiency study or TRS has changed, I would like to strike the balance there. It just seems within one cycle, we didn't even talk about this last budget cycle. Within one budget cycle, we're talking about 9 new positions in the administrative offices. And it seems like a lot.
May I just clarify? 3 of these positions are teacher positions who will go out and support and help. They're not administrators. So when you say 9 new administrators, they're not 9 administrators. There are 3 of them who are teachers who are out to help and support other teachers.
But they're acting in an administrative capacity in helping, in coordinating, in coaching, right?
We have teachers who coach other teachers now. That's not an administrator. They support and help one another. So teachers, we know, do really well with other teachers helping them, depending on who's in front of them, coaching and supporting them. So those are not administrators. The director of ELA and math those are director administrative positions. But the TOSA's ones, those are not administrators. Those are teachers who are going to go and help and coach in those areas, support, right? Help the work, but they're not administrators. The only other thing I just want to mention, you talked about teacher assistants, or teacher aides rather. Just keep in mind that this year, if you recall, when we did the ARP and the ESSA, we did add quite a few extra teacher assistants throughout the district. There was do you remember that? I think, Heather, you brought it up, if I remember correctly. And so just so you know, we are trying to strike the balance. And we have done a lot of work around teacher assistants, services, counselors, teachers to help lessen some of the grade levels. Thanks to ARP and ESSER, we did a lot of that, and we are scheduled to do it the next couple of years.
And I'm very thankful. Was it 12 or 14 TAs we added with the ARP and ESSA? That's great. I will just say that is truly the soft money that I'm talking about. When I think about soft money, now that is the soft money. That's going away in 3 years. So that's, again, long-term budgeting. Looking at these budgets from year to year, it's just hard to discern where some of the changes were put in and how those changes maybe were not taken out or were carried over from year to year. And that's where I think it's important to make sure that budget lines reflect where the money is going. Thank you. I can be done. Sorry for the lengthy conversation.
Thank you, Jim. Sean?
So the ones in red are just being revised and reorganized. The ones in yellow, which ones have we already hired?
The assistant director under business, the clerk typist under executive director personnel, the director of ELA, and the director, right? And then the director of math, we have a couple candidates that we're finishing that process up with right now, okay? And those are the ones that have been hired now.
Okay. I'd like to wait on some of it, but I think I'm okay with this. I mean, the reorganization seems fine, and then the ones that we've already hired or already have product, people in that spot, I think I'm good with moving forward.
Tom?
stop. I'm good with everything except the assistant superintendent. I'd like to hold off until, just seeing that's the largest component, the largest chunk of the outlay, that just wait until the efficiency study or wait till a little bit longer. If we can, just on that, that's the only one that I would want to hold off on. But other than that, I'm good with everything.
And yeah, I personally appreciate this chart. I think I'd like to see, you know, everything in our budget. I guess I'm a little confused because you're talking about hiring now, and we didn't budget, it's not in the budget currently, like for this year. So, I mean, you're talking about these folks starting in next year.
Well, some of them we'd like to get started now, so like the math and the director.
I understand the ones that we've already hired, but I'm saying as we look forward, these ones you want to get hired, but to start next year so that they truly are next year's budget.
Yes, the sooner we can get them started, the better. So, yes.
I
I'm
think when you
wondering where
said,
that money
yeah,
is.
so what he
Yeah.
said earlier is that all of that, there's enough extra money in this year's budget to reallocate to cover those positions
For the
in this
couple of
year's
months.
budget, for the couple of months until the budget
All
year
of them,
ends.
though, including your assistant superintendent.
Yes.
It's a lot of surplus. Okay. I'm fine with it, and Pam's not here to speak for herself, but she did say she was fine with it.
Right, so are we, okay, so does that mean we're able to move forward then? Do you want to take a vote, or?
I think that's the problem. I think if it's going to be an official vote, we should have it in a resolution form, and it should come to the next meeting. What do you guys think?
Well, I want to wait till tonight, but the things in red, I wanted to get started right away.
I think the things in red, those are already your positions.
Yes.
So we're not creating new positions, we're not digging into any new money. And so what I'm saying is the rest of it should come maybe next meeting in terms of approving the organizational chart. I think that's the best way to do it. And then if people want to amend the chart, what do you think? Yes? Yes. I'm trying to think of the easiest way because it is like very comprehensive in terms of, I mean, we could also take each individual thing, but that's not. What do you guys think? Yes?
At our next meeting, is our next meeting April 5th? Is that? Okay, so we may have the charts by the efficiency studies by then?
Yes, we'll have some of
Right.
this, yeah, we'll have, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like a chicken and egg thing, right?
It
Because
is,
we're
it
approving
is.
these piecemeal positions and versus the whole organizational chart. But actually, even if we approve the organizational chart and we don't have the money to budget for it, and we find that we don't, right, then
It's a moot point.
it's a moot point, right? It doesn't really, so, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm fine with,
I think approving the organizational budget and giving the information that we have enough to cover in the interim for this budget in excess, I think that just gives them the leverage to go out and start recruiting,
right.
you know, getting ahead of the game with recruiting. But it still would have to pass the smell test with the budget for next year. Yes? Sean, I can't see you. Yeah? Okay, so let's plan on doing that as an official resolution. The red ones, I believe, are your domain, no matter what. And then, as far as the whole organizational chart, we'll officially approve or disapprove next.
Okay,
Is everyone okay with that? Yes, okay, great.
okay. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you so much, Board, for that dialogue and conversation. Okay, so let's see here. That's all that I have for this evening. Thank you for your time. That's it.
Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda, items A through E. Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is personnel with Dr. Sweeney. Suzanne?
Yeah.
I'll do B.
It only went.
Oh,
So we have F through I to do.
yes, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Items A through I, if I could have a motion.
We've already approved to E, so now we'll just do F to I.
Okay. Items F through I, if I could have a motion.
I'll move it.
Second,
I'll second.
any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Item A, we have a retirement. Whereas John Herman admirably served the students and staff of the Oswego City School District as a school bus driver from December 16th, 2014, with a full commitment to the best interests of all the students and worked in partnership with his fellow employees. Now be it resolved that the district hereby recognizes his dedication, and we express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for his years of service. And his retirement is effective June 25th, 2022.
Items A, could I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay?
Next item is B, and this is the resignation of Dr. Heidi Sweeney, who's been with our district now for over 20 years. We are going to miss her. I want to thank her for her partnership, her hard work, all of her efforts. She's going to go on to lead a very strong institution. I know that she's going to make it better and bigger and even greater. So we want to thank her for her years of service. I just wanted to say, Dr. Sweeney, thank you for everything. We're going to miss you a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
We'll
everything.
miss you all, too.
Yes.
For item B, could I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Any discussion?
Yes, I would just like to also mirror what Dr. Calvin said, but Heidi, just like Carrie, you took on an immense role, and you've served it with a lot of grace and dignity over the years. I don't think people even know how much has been on your shoulders, and every bit of effort you've put in has been appreciated, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry, Tom.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I can't say it any better, but I wanted to reiterate the same feelings because it's been comforting having you there. So I appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Reluctantly.
And then, so we start back off with item C, a familiar face. We're looking forward to Mr. Miles joining us again. So items C through I for our professional staff recommendations.
Items C through I, could I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And our support staff recommendations are items J through Q.
Items J through Q, could I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next will be Finance with Nancy Squires.
Items A through E as presented.
For items A through E, could I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second. That's my job.
You do it well, Tom.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next will be the student representative discussion. Zach?
Hey guys, not too much on our plate today. Things have been pretty busy, but pretty quiet as well. If you want to look up on the screen over there, and you also have a pamphlet with you, you'll see the candidates for the Buck of the Month Award. If you remember a few meetings ago, I brought in the medal and showed you guys. So these are our first month winners. It's one student from each class, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and 2 staff members. If you want to know how the selection process works, it's teachers nominate a student or staff member. with just a summary of why they think they should be selected for the Buck of the Month. And they're reviewed, and the most, or the best choice that the staff believes is chosen. And these are winners for the month of February. Oh yeah, round of applause. Another thing I wanted to mention, as Dr. Kelvin mentioned as well, just the marching band winning the Sammy Award for the best academic and musical organization. It's just full of a lot of hardworking staff and students. They performed for us at the pep rally in the fall, like an imitation of Mount Vesuvius, the eruption, and I just thought it was fantastic. And then one more thing. Just wanted to bring up spring sports. They're starting soon, next week. I just love being outside. Finally, the winter months are over, and it's a great chance for more school spirit. So I love that. And that's everything I have.
Thank you, Zach.
Great. Next is items from the board.
So we always start with Pam, who is in Naples enjoying sun, but she sent me a text of thank yous. So I said I would try to do her. I don't quite have the passion that she brings to these moments of gratitude, but I feel them very deeply. First, she wanted to thank Jim, actually, Jim Jackson, for stepping up and really being a leader with the buildings and grounds, and also everybody that helped fix the boiler issue and the diligence there. And then also, lastly, really grateful for the fact that we could go remote with a snap of a finger. So that time away really wasn't, we could still make use of it. In times of old, that would not have been the case. So, that's, I think, to Dr. Kelvin and our technology folks credit. So thank you for all of that. And I think that's it. Yes, Sean.
I was gonna do Pam's thing too as well. We have a whole bunch of students since the last meeting. They've done some pretty cool stuff. Girls and boys basketball, we had Sophia Babcock and Adriana Ellis make all team. And in boys basketball, Nate Deviney and Zach Chamberlain did. The JV boys team was 15-4 this year, which is really good for Oswego. And the OMS girls modified team went 8-0 without a loss, and they pretty much killed everybody this year. Track and field, Riley King finished 19th in New York City. The Oswego varsity cheerleaders finished second in the sectionals. Wayne Earl Jr., who's a wrestler, won the Hawk Pettinelli Scholarship Award, and the unified bowling team is undefeated right now at 3-0.
Yeah, I just wanted to make note of the Oswego County Literacy Night, Oswego County School Boards Association on the 22nd. And this is for the board members, but also people associated with the Literacy Committee that we're doing through strategic planning. And just RSVP to Donna Blake, it says at the bottom of there. So for board members or for anyone listening, it's bmdekalb@gmail.com. And that's Donna Blake. So there is a light supper that will be served, and it'll be out there for literacy within the county.
As an update, we have scheduled our policy committee meeting on the 23rd. So your hardworking policy committee will hopefully come back at the next meeting with some proposals for the 4 policies that need some revisions and some work. Anything else? Zach, will we be losing you to spring sports?
It depends if I have matches, but I'll do my best to make it. And if unfortunately I do have to miss, I'll be sure to send some notes about what I have to offer.
Great. Well, we appreciate that, but enjoy your sports too. All done. Yeah.
At this time, the board will move to executive session for the purpose of current litigation and the employment history of a particular person. All in favor?
And also negotiations, please.
We're going to need a motion.
Motion?
Yep. I'll move it.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You may move to executive session.